I traveled to Bolivia last summer, despite the pandemic, and I ran into a number of problems along the way. Bolivia requires a PCR COVID test no less than 72 hours before you fly. I had located a test at Walgreens, but they only guaranteed results in 96 hours, though they said the results would probably come in 48 hours. To be on the safe side, I made my appointment for 12:15 p.m., just under 72 hours before my flight. When I got my results 2 days later, the results showed the time as 11:15 Pacific Standard Time. They had used West Coast time instead of Mountain Time. So it looked like my test was done 73 hours before my flight. I would spend hours on the phone with United, but they would not give me a boarding pass. Finally, without approval to fly, I just showed up at the airport, showed my test, and they let me get on the plane. Unfortunately, the flight to Houston was delayed en route due to a storm, and I missed my connecting flight to Panama, necessitating an overnight in Houston. When I showed up at the airport the next day with my now ancient COVID test, they again let me on the plane. They were unable to give me a seat on the next flight on Copa Airlines from Panama to Santa Cruz, instructing me to get the seat when I arrived. Well, when I arrived in Panama and went to the Copa check-in, they wouldn't give me a ticket because my bags hadn't been transferred from United to Copa. Where are my bags? They are with United. Where is United? Baggage claim. In order to go to baggage claim, I would need an antigen COVID test. Of course, I missed the flight, got a test for $50, retrieved my bags, made a reservation at a cheap airport hotel just a few hundred meters away from the airport, and decided to just walk. 15 minutes later, I was utterly soaked in sweat when I arrived at the dismal hotel. The next morning, when I tried to get on a flight, they wouldn't let me on because my now ancient test was too old. Stayed last night in the Crown Plaza. I had to take a COVID test again. In Panama, it's cheaper, faster. Took only an hour to get PCR results. Cost me $120. In the States, I couldn't even get an appointment for a rapid test, and they were $250. No insurance allowed. Everybody's wearing masks around here, even outside. I'm not wearing one. I finally arrived in Santa Cruz, Bolivia late that night. After a couple of hours trying to get through immigration, I checked into a hotel close to the airport. Bienvenidos a Sucre. Looks like everything's under construction. Where's my taxi? There's a school right there. So, I guess I'm just going to go in there and see if anybody's home. I only found the cleaning lady in the school, but using my fractured Spanish, I managed to get a hold of the director, and he gave me information on how to contact Nancy, and I walked the 15 minutes or so over to her place for my homestay. I started school the next day. I'm on my way to my first day of school at the Latino America Escuela de Español. Hola. Muy bien. So I'm filming.
Un video.
Estoy en video.
Hola.
Instructor was Lily, Portugal. I spent the next 3 weeks studying Spanish every day, speaking Spanish all day long, soaking up the culture. Gracias. Tus zapatos. Oh, this looks like a good place. Hola. Is there a restaurant here?
Yeah, restaurants, we have coffee, meals, and so follow the leader.
Gracias.
Don't worry, my friend. Also, I advise you later to go upstairs because it's plenty open view without wires and cables, and so you have clean whole view.
Okay.
Marvelous view.
Oh yeah, this is it. I ordered vegetarian lasagna. But before I went to get my vegetarian lasagna, I had to come up here to the deck and get the best view in Sucre. Yes. Beautiful.
If you would like to have here your meal, also it's possible.
On the weekends, I ventured out to a market town in Tarabuco. One weekend, I spent trekking around Maragua, hiking the Inca Trail.
Y para haber construido en esa época todavía les dura.
Also, I went out on runs on the weekend and into the neighborhoods and visiting strange sights. After Sucre, I flew to La Paz for a couple of days to prepare to go for a week-long trek, which would culminate in climbing a 20,000-foot peak, Huayna Potosi.
We did it! We did it, my friend!
Following that highlight, I went back to La Paz for a couple of days, riding on the Teleférico and getting ready to go on a trip over to Lake Titicaca. Oh, yeah. I asked the driver from my track if he could drive me to Copacabana, and on the way we stopped. We saw some archaeological sites on Tiwanaku, and he proved to be quite the guide. He had a lot of inside knowledge and knew some people and got to see some pretty amazing sights. After a night in Copacabana, I walked to Yampu Pata, which was about 10 miles, found a young man with a rickety old boat to take me across to Isla del Sol. One day I hiked all the way across the island, and I got another rickety boat back to my hotel. Well, I'm leaving the island of Sun, Isla del Sol, today. After 2 nights, catching a ferry to Copacabana, where Fernando is going to meet me about noon for the drive back to La Paz. So I walked down to catch the ferry back to Copacabana. And then we spent the day in Copacabana, just enjoying the sights, seeing some festivities going on. Then it was back to La Paz for a couple of days before I caught my flight back to the States. But first in La Paz I had to get a COVID test. For the United States it was only antigen, so I wasn't as involved. This is the line for checking documents before you get on the flight to Houston from Panama City.